Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Monday Night Travel for an update on efforts to end hunger around the world. I'm Ben Green, and I'll moderate our travels. We are traveling virtually again many times in the future here at Rick Steves Europe. We have more Monday night travels ahead, and on April 13th, we will kick off our 9-night Festival of Tours when Rick will join us once again for a dive into our Best of Europe 21-day flagship itinerary and a look at the story of our tour program. But enough on future travels. Let's get back to tonight by welcoming our tour guide, Rick Steves. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much for the intro, and thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. You know, as Ben was talking, I was thinking I always like to throw around quotes by great people. A long time ago, Thomas Jefferson said, "Travel makes a person wiser, if less happy." And when you travel, you get exposed to realities on this planet. And if reality is less happy, sign me up. Getting involved and making a difference makes me more happy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. 1400 years ago, Muhammad said, "Don't tell me how educated you are, tell me how much you've traveled." Well, I've traveled, and I think Muhammad would like the way I come home from my travels, recognizing what are realities on this planet when it comes to economic justice, poverty, and hunger. Today, we're going to be joined by a good friend of mine who runs Bread for the World, and we're going to spend about an hour learning about hunger, extreme poverty, and what is being done and how people are helping out. It's a very positive evening, filled with hope. In fact, a book I wrote from my experience in making a TV special about this is called Hunger and Hope. And we're going to be traveling in Ethiopia, Guatemala, and Iran, learning about what's going on there and humanizing those beautiful countries. We're going to be seeing video clips that show us extreme poverty and what it's like to try to live on $3 a day. We're going to look at the humanity of this challenge, and we're going to see examples of practical progress as good people are dedicating their lives and other good people are pitching in to help pay for this, to help bring people out of poverty. It's been a big year when it comes to the fight against poverty, and it has not been a good year. We've got wars going on. Every time somebody tells me they spend $1 billion every day on our war these days, I think of how much the United States could be safer and stronger if we used that money not to destroy things, but to lift up people who are desperate and hungry. $1 billion could go a long way in making us safer and more stable if we invested it, like we're going to be talking about today, in what I like to call soft power. Of course, we've had these wars, we've had American politics, we've had a president who wanted to pull all the funding out of USAID and doesn't recognize that that's cost literally hundreds of thousands of deaths because of starvation and because of poverty in the short time since he took office for his second term. We're going to be joined by what I call a VSG, a very special guest, Eugene Cho. In just a minute, he's the president of Bread for the World. But right now, I want to celebrate the fact that our annual fundraiser for Bread for the World this Christmas raised $1,300,000. We kicked in $500,000, challenged people to send in $100. 6,000 of you sent in $100 or more, and it tallied 1.3 million bucks. And that's so exciting for me because it gets traction. I want to kick things off here today with just a short clip that fills me with hope. It shows what smart development aid is today, how it empowers hard-working locals. We're going to visit 2 farming families, one in Ethiopia and one in Guatemala. And we're going to meet Abdi, and we're going to meet Diego and Katerina, real people with dignity, working hard, staying on the farm, and taking advantage of smart, modern development aid. This is aid that is not your grandma's aid. This is today's aid, and this makes people not dependent, but independent, people who want to work hard and join in on the global economy. So if I can just find out which buttons to click here, I'd like to take you to Guatemala and to Ethiopia. Here we go.
This program is about how those in extreme poverty, the poorest of the poor, are improving their lives by addressing very basic needs. Progress is incremental, and it happens with a combined and coordinated effort. Smart non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, the support of local governments, development aid and fair trade policies from wealthy countries, and most of all, hardworking local people. In Ethiopia, Abedi and his family are a good example. While still poor, they have a more modern home and are actually making progress. Abedi explained how he's running a productive small farm, growing enough for his family needs, with a surplus to sell. He showed me how a tank he fills with manure produces fertilizer. At the same time, it generates methane, or biogas. Abedi can now fire up his stove and boil water without using firewood. He has light even after the sun goes down. His home is spacious, with windows for ventilation and a sturdy tin roof. The old kerosene lamp grows dusty, as this light is now powered by a solar panel. And the same panel provides enough juice to charge their cell phones.
I'm going to have to rein myself in tonight because it is so exciting to be able to share this with you, to see this man who has had a little bit of help through World Food Program or USAID, and now he's able to light his own lantern, to get to harness the sun, to be self-sufficient, to grow enough to have food left over to take down to the market. Wow.
The family has worked hard and has enough food stored to get them, hopefully, through the hunger season. And a few sheep share the courtyard until they're sold at the market to boost the family income. Here in the highlands of Guatemala, an indigenous Mayan couple, Diego and Caterina, while still poor, are also gaining modest and dignified lives. They told me how, unlike their parents, they were able to buy their land and have diversified their sources of income, growing more crops than just corn and raising goats. An NGO from the United States helped them become landowners, providing a loan and a lawyer to get firm title. When asked how this house was better than their last, Diego showed us their concrete floor, electricity, a bedroom for the children, and running water. And their kitchen has an elevated stove equipped with a chimney. Around the world, great strides in fighting poverty are being made with simple technical upgrades. For example, smarter stoves. Less fortunate neighbors still have an open fire on the floor, wasting firewood and filling their families' lungs with smoke. Elevated stoves with chimneys allow women to stand rather than squat, are more fuel efficient, saving lots of trees, and make living quarters less smoky, avoiding lots of respiratory disease. Families like those we visited have worked hard. They've been provided not with charity, but with a path to development, and they seem to be flourishing. Charity is important for emergencies, but development aid is for the future. Today's development aid is smart. Rather than dependence, it creates independence. It breaks the cycle of poverty, connects people to markets, and opens the door to the benefits of capitalism.
Wow, such a privilege and a joy to be able to go and humanize the exciting work that's being done and the struggles that people are in the middle of, and to see them getting traction. You know, it's my joy and my honor right now to invite our special guest. Eugene Cho, for 6 years, has been president of Bread for the World. This man is such a hardworking leader. He's powerful and inspirational with his faith, and he has motored Bread for the World and its team through the COVID years, and now artfully working with an administration that just doesn't understand the value of helping people south of the border. Eugene, I'm just so happy to have you here. Eugene Cho.
Rick, thank you so much. I am so glad to be here as a VSG. This is the first time I have been given the title of VSG, so thank you. It is a privilege to partner with you and so many of those who are part of your journey and team. You're an amazing advocate, not just for addressing hunger, which Bread focuses on, but for making the world a better place. Before we get too far into the show, I do want to begin by thanking you and the 6,000 of those who joined your year-end campaign, and everyone that's here tonight that's expressing interest in learning more about how we can work together.
Can we do a high five, Eugene? Let's see if that works.
Let's do it.
Okay, there you go. All right. I'm so happy for that, the response that we got. 6,000 people responded. And if you look to those last clips, you can see the joy people get. $100 makes a huge difference when it comes to giving people the opportunity to work, produce, and bring their children and their families out of poverty. Hey, Eugene, could you please define for us what is Bread for the World?
So Bread is a faith-based advocacy organization. We have a 50-year history of partnering with diverse audiences everywhere with the mission of helping end hunger, both in the United States and around the world. And I guess today during our show, we'll speak more about the ways we work, but just high level, we do that through lobbying, through research, through organizing, and holding prayer and events. And therefore, we use all of those things to urge the US government to put our tax dollars to work in the most effective and efficient ways to help end hunger.
Wow. And I'm glad you used the word lobbying, because lobbying has sort of a bad taste in your mouth sometimes because you associate it with people who lobby for things you don't want. But lobbying is part of our democracy, isn't it? And you could also call it advocacy. Bread for the World is an advocacy organization. It hires lobbyists who know that game to get in Congress, to walk the halls, to meet with decision makers, and it gives hungry people a place at the table. And if there's not a person with a place at a voice for hungry people at the table when decisions are made, what happens?
And I think, Rick, you just nailed it. We have to be at the tables where decisions are being made. And the sad reality is oftentimes those who have a lot are invited to those tables, right, and those that don't have are not invited. That's the reason why we need Bread for the World and others.
So I'm really into the concept of stewardship, Eugene. And when I want to give some money to a good organization, I want to get as much bang for my philanthropic buck as I can. And there's lots of good causes. And I think it's a selfish joy, which is a beautiful thing for anybody that has money to give to good causes. That's great. But for me, the way I get the most mileage out of every dollar that I can give is to be sure I'm considering advocacy, because one little triumph with Bread for the World at the table in Congress spells literally, well, billions of dollars, really, doesn't it?
That's right. In our 50 years, I can positively say that we've been able to impact the lives of hundreds of millions of Americans and billions of people worldwide. For every $1 that someone donates or invests, as you have, it will correlate to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, again, making a big difference around the world.
For every dollar. Talk about leverage. Hey, Eugene, you guys have been producing some good little video clips. I like this one here that kind of reviews 50 years of Bread for the World process. And we can get a good look here at how this is real people helping real people, caring people, and it's our democracy in action. Our national budget is a moral document, and people who get into the trenches with this cause put love thy neighbor as part of what they want in their moral document. Let's go back now to a little video, and we'll talk more about this in a couple of minutes.
Over the decades, Bread for the World reshaped the role of faith communities in public life. We built a nationwide movement, trained churches to speak out, engaged more than 300,000 advocates. Since Bread began, the share of people facing hunger is nearly half of what it was in the 70s. Over the last 50 years, about 1.25 million Bread supporters have taken nearly 7 million advocacy actions that have changed the policies and programs that once allowed hunger to persist. We helped develop and pass legislation, including the Global Food Security Act, the Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act, and the Global Malnutrition Prevention and Treatment Act. And we strengthened federal nutrition programs like WIC and SNAP. Our efforts helped secure permanent improvements to the Earned Income Tax Credit and Child Tax Credit, directly reducing hunger for millions of families.
Part of the progress that happened during that period, when I was president, the U.S. Quadrupled the quantity and improved the quality of U.S. poverty-focused development assistance. And Bread for the World and its members were an important part of making that happen.
That was David Beckman, by the way, who was the president for Bread for the World for, I think, about 30 years, along with Art Simon, who founded it. So the three presidents of Bread for the World over 50 years were at that table.
Our advocacy helped cut child poverty in half. That's not a hope or a theory. That's a fact. Because of the policies Bread helped shape and protect, millions of children today have more food, more stability, and a better chance at life. This is the power of collective advocacy. The church showing up and making change real.
To the question that I have heard, and maybe each of you have heard, there are people that are skeptics or cynics, or they're just not sure. They'll ask the question genuinely and authentically. They'll say, please be honest with me. Do you really believe we can end hunger in our lifetime? Yes, absolutely. We believe that we can end hunger in our lifetime. I think that's why you started Bread for the World. That's why I think you ran the marathon for nearly 3 decades. And that's why I chose to say yes to this invitation, to this calling, because I believe.
But today, we find ourselves in a moment of great testing. Global humanitarian aid is facing historic budget cuts. Congress has proposed eliminating funding for anti-hunger programs abroad. Nutrition assistance here at home is under constant threat. Faith voices for justice are being drowned out by louder, divisive forces.
Eugene, I'd like to take just a moment for you to give us a recap of this very difficult year. I mean, I've been with Bread for the World for 30 years, and I know you have to be bipartisan, and nothing really happens unless we get Democrats and Republicans together. But we've never had anything remotely like what happened in the last year as President Trump kicked off his second term. Now, just the way I'm trying to get my brain around it, Eugene, is President Trump wanted to, in the name of saving money for the budget, cut out USAID entirely. That's the organized branch in our government that believes in soft power. You help people in compassionate ways, and it makes our world stronger and safer, and it's a good investment apart from love thy neighbor. So you kind of get it both ways. But they just zeroed out the entire program, took down the sign on the building, and had to save, in order to save $40 billion ballpark. And it didn't just disappear, because some of the programs were recognized by everybody as important to keep going. So they found a home in the State Department or other places, and maybe 10 or 20 billion survive, but it's less than half of what it used to be. Can you just take a little bit of time to explain the impact of that Doge destruction of USAID and where it leaves us today?
Sure. Yeah, this is a hard question because it's so emotional. This is not just some random policy decision that has no impact. There are some sources that cite that approximately 760,000 plus people have died because of the USAID cuts so far. That includes over 500,000 children. So when you hear a politician say no one has died as a result of these Doge cuts, that is simply not true. And there's a lot more at stake. And what I mean by this is that projections suggest that if we do nothing, that could rise to 14 million additional deaths by 2030. So let me zoom back in a little bit. You've shared that USAID is no longer. It's not coming back. We all know this. But thankfully, there are some programs that are continuing onward. But we see a dramatically smaller, what used to be an agency called USAID is now really a bureau at the State Department, as well as some programs sitting under USDA. So that's a little bit of a nutshell of what's transpired in the year. Maybe the last thing that I'll share is that part of the reason why I think Bread for the World and advocacy is so important is that we're trying to speak with our elected leaders to help reimagine, as difficult as it is, trying to reimagine the future of international global assistance.
So there's something that I keep reminding myself because I can be demoralized and I can say all this hard work and now we've just collapsed. But working on the defense to minimize the cuts and salvage what we can is even more important than building on successes when times are good. So if you're minimizing your losses, it's just as productive as in good times, adding on to your gains, right? And now we have to just be artful because it's only allowed if it makes America stronger, if it's can be framed in a way that is self-serving, but at the same time feeding people.
That's right. It is really important. The reality is there are people who are so discouraged that they feel like it's not worth it to stay engaged. And respectfully, we tell them, this is the time you've got to double down. And I see a lot of organizations who, because of budgeting concerns, have chosen to withdraw from advocacy. And this is why I feel that much more convicted, the urgency, the burden of showing up at these tables. I'll give you a couple examples. We know that there are some programs that survive because these are really important time-tested programs. Food for Peace and McGovern-Dole Food for Education. I don't want to go into all the wonkiness of it, but both of these supply American-grown, locally purchased food to combat hunger, malnutrition, emergencies in over 150 countries. So we're grateful that Bread for the World advocated for these programs. They survived, and we want to make sure that they're able to grow in addition to newer things that will be added to our leadership efforts.
I know there was a time, Eugene, when publicly held corporations were leading the charge in supporting causes like Bread for the World. And now I understand they are less of a player, and the big corporations that can still do that tend to be privately held corporations because they don't have to answer to a board that has a legal obligation to profit maximize for their shareholders. I'm a privately held corporation. I can give all I want to Bread for the World just because I think it's a good thing to do. If I had a publicly held company with a board of directors, it would be a little more complicated. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, these are really confusing, challenging, chaotic times. And I think you're right. I think more people are very timid about showing up and speaking up because we are doing work during a very difficult administrative posture, if you will. And this is the reason why individuals, and I would say my motto is this: all hands on deck. That's what it means to be patriotic. If we love this country and also have a larger sense of the global collective, all hands on deck.
All hands on deck. And when we're looking at the fundamental causes of hunger, which is something I've always been fascinated by ever since I read the book Bread for the World back when I was a student in my 20s, I've realized that there's a structural basis of poverty. We have so much wealth in this world, but there's a structural basis of poverty and hunger. And lately I've heard it referred to as the 4 C's. You've got corruption or bad government. You've got climate change. You've got increasing costs because of trade policies and tariffs and so on. I mean, imagine if 75% of your income goes to corn, and that's the staple, and you're just struggling to keep your family in corn, in tortillas or something, and all of a sudden corn goes up 50%. Well, that's all your money is gone. I mean, that's traumatic. And the 4th C is conflict. And that's in the news right now. Gaza, Iran, and so on. And my takeaway when I did my scouting to write the TV show, Hope and Hunger, was that, and everybody was sort of excited about this back 10 years ago, we're doing so good fighting hunger that mostly hunger will be limited to places where there is conflict. Well, let me show you a little clip, those of you who are watching right now, because I am so heartbroken by the impact of war on hungry people. And think about that when you think today we spent $1 billion dropping bombs, and it did nothing but destroy things, so more money has to be spent to build it up, when what really is the foundation of any sort of chaos and broken states and desperation on our planet is poverty and hunger. Check this clip out, please.
While there's been tremendous progress globally in the fight against hunger, unfortunately, over the last few years, hunger has ticked up rather than declined. To a great extent, it's because of a combination of three things: conflict, bad governance and corruption, and climate change. Conflict is a major hurdle. Wars, drug trade, gangs, sectarian violence, with so much weaponry ending up in the poor world. It all pushes people deeper into poverty. Statistics show that when there's violent conflict, it's the poorest who suffer the most. More civilians than combatants die. Institutions that hold societies together fall apart, and economies grind to a halt. A global surge in armed conflict, especially in Africa, is a major reason for the recent setback in progress against world hunger. Experts believe that, in the future, most hunger will be in countries racked by conflict.
Oh man, that is powerful to me. Eugene, when you think of the effort that you and your staff puts into fighting hunger, what are the conflicts on this planet right now that really are a gut blow to the work you're doing?
Well, sadly, there's too many. I'll name a few countries, but let me put things in. Let me frame it for those who are kind of watching and listening. 70% of the world's hungriest people right now, they live in conflict-affected areas. It is the greatest driver to hunger and vulnerability.
That is quite
Over
a statement.
80%. Yep.
Cool.
Over 80% of the world's worst food crises are driven by armed conflict. And sometimes this is brutal, but they'll use hunger, food, and starvation as a weapon of war. So let's talk about some of these places. Sudan, Gaza, Haiti are some of the broken states right now where famine is also in real danger. We talked about Gaza last year. 1.6 million people in Gaza, even now, need urgent food assistance. In the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, 28 million people face high levels of food insecurity. And I'm sure we'll talk about Iran as well, but certainly Iran is very much in the news, as it should be. And I want to make sure this is not just about oil. It's going to dramatically impact and spike up hunger and vulnerability in that country and in that region.
And it's going to make food more expensive in areas that are more famous for being hungry, as there's a global oil crisis and so on. You know, I've got, with all the Iran in the news lately, I produced this 1-hour special on Iran. And the main thing about it, the takeaway for me, was just humanizing 70 million Iranians. And I've got a couple of clips here that I want to share with our viewers. And this is just... I was afraid to go to Iran. I thought we would get horrible reception. I have never been received so warmly on the streets as when I was filming in Iran. And right now we're going to go to Isfahan. It's a beautiful city. And we're going to go to the riverbank in Isfahan, and just the sun's going down, and it's just like the passeggiata in Italy, or the paseo in Spain, or maybe the stroll at sundown in your town. And I just would love it if people here could take a look at these people. These are Iranians. These are the people that are running from our bombs right now. I don't want to get into the justification of dropping the bombs. You know, sometimes we have to drop bombs. But every bomb that falls and every bullet that flies has my name on it as a taxpayer. And I want to be paying attention to know what are the real issues here at stake, and is this the best use of our energy? Check this little visit to Isfahan out to think about the humanity of the people on the receiving end of our bombs right now.
Straddling its river, Esfahan is famous for its marvelous bridges, which date to the 17th century. And between those bridges, stretching for 6 miles on either bank, is a much-loved city park. This is where families and friends gather over a pot of tea or a box of sweets. Here on the riverbank, I was struck by the tranquility of the scene, filled with people who seemed to be thoroughly enjoying life's simple blessings.
This is every night on the riverbanks of this city, which most of us don't even know the name of this city. Wow. When I'm normally doing my TV work and my producer wants me to interact, they have this command, Rick, go interact. And I'm sort of terrified by that command because I got to go, I got to meet people, I got to strike up a conversation. It was never so easy as when I was in Iran. I loved interacting in Iran. I did a thing called eye fishing. I just called it eye fishing because I could walk 50 meters down this strip of a riverfront and I'd get eye contact with somebody and immediately we would have a conversation.
I love it in the last hour day when everybody's out, and here in Isfahan, it's down to the riverbank. You know, all over Europe, you got this passeggiata, paseo, people are out during the magic hour. Didn't expect to find it here in Iran, but boy, they've got it. I don't know what the word is in Farsi, but they've got the paseo. Like the paseo, it's a social scene filled with young men and women and families enjoying the moment. Any interaction between men and women seemed very discreet. Still, even with the constraints of dress and behavior, I sensed a confidence and youthful vitality. To me, these young people felt like the future of Iran. They had a modern sensibility and seemed well educated. I have many friends in America that are...
I took it upon myself to do a little investigative reporting here, and I wanted to talk to these young ladies about how they find a boy, how they meet a boy.
I have many friends in America that are curious about Iran.
Okay.
What can you tell them? What message would you give to my friends?
Your friends? About people?
About the people in Iran, yeah.
The people in America.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Because we want to understand the people of Iran, and if we can make friends, it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you have friends that you come to see on the river?
On the river? No.
No.
We just come here with our families.
Okay. Might you meet a boy down here?
No, we don't meet a boy usually.
Where do you meet a boy?
Where?
Someday you must meet a boy.
Okay, we will meet a boy, but we are not supposed to find a boy.
You know, oh, they find you.
Okay, yeah, they find us.
Really? How does that work?
Okay, it really works.
Does it work okay?
Yes.
So you have no worries about this?
No worries.
You'll be happy?
Yes.
That's good. I hope you're happy.
Thanks.
Very nice to meet you.
You too. Same here.
As the sun goes down, the people of Esfahan also gather in Imam Square as if to savor the beauty of their city at twilight.
Oh man, I had so much fun filming this show. It was such a wonderful challenge, and what an opportunity to bring it to the public. Thanks to public broadcasting. No commercial television station would risk offending their advertisers by airing something like this. But of course, public television, they'll bring it to us because it's people's television, not driven by advertisers. You know, when I filmed this program on Iran, people say, "Why are you going to Iran?" And it was about when we were bombing Baghdad. It was the same year. And my answer was, I think it's good style to know people before you bomb them. It just, you know, sometimes we have to kill innocent people. It's called collateral damage, but it should break our hearts when we accidentally drop a bomb and killed 150 schoolgirls. That happens. That's real. And you just met 2 of them. The people in these countries we don't need to work so hard to radicalize them. I really believe that we do a lot of damage when we radicalize a lot of people that are just trying to put it together. I was in a traffic jam in Iran. We're going to go right now to a university in Tehran, in the big city. And I was in a traffic jam there, and it was just quiet. And suddenly the man in the next car went like this to my driver, rolled down your window. And the man in the next car in the traffic jam handed over a bouquet of flowers. And he told my driver, give this to the foreigner in your back seat and apologize for our traffic. I just thought, well, that never happens in Seattle. It's amazing. We're going to meet some students right now at the university in Tehran. And imagine having the opportunity to walk with these people who are running for cover right now.
Tehran is a vibrant metropolis, Iran's social, artistic, and educational center. Its university is the oldest, biggest, and most prestigious in the land. It's quite selective. Only about 1 in 10 applicants get in. Here, as in other Iranian universities, students enjoy a higher education paid for by the government. But wandering through campus, we learned that free tuition comes with strict guidelines as dictated by the theocracy. While I hope to find some nonconformity, the vibe here made BYU seem like Berkeley. Compliance raged. Women are perfectly welcome. In fact, women outnumber Iranian men in both universities and in many respected professions. But segregation is the rule. In classrooms, it's men on one side and women on the other. There was no real student union center, just a small commons in each department, with a snack bar for men and an adjacent one for women. Despite the conservative atmosphere, we found students friendly, curious, and willing to chat.
What do you study?
Only for chemistry.
Chemistry, very difficult.
Yes.
For me, very difficult. What do you study?
Chemistry.
All of you are
Yes.
chemistry.
So we're learning very much when we come to Iran.
For example?
For example, the people are not angry with America.
Yes. Government has a lot of war to each other because their benefits, but there's no war between people.
That's a very interesting point. So the governments have a difficult time, but the people, if we meet the people, it's like this.
Yes, they're friends to each other.
Yeah, it's like
They
this. I
should
like
be
that.
friends.
Yeah. So for Americans, we're very religious people, but we make the government and the church apart, you know.
It's not common to each other, but in Iran, unfortunately, the religious and the politics is mixed to each other.
Yeah. So this
And it's
is.
the main problem.
You think that's?
Yes, it's the main problem of, and it's the main point of that distance between people and government.
So you're a modern young woman,
Yeah,
well educated.
I like to be.
Yeah. Then you must cover your hair.
It's a law in Iran.
It's a law.
It's
yeah.
a law.
Now, I cannot shake your hand.
No, because here is a religious society.
So I can go like salam?
Me too.
I can go salam?
No, bye, Khoda Hafiz.
Okay.
Khoda Hafiz.
Hoda
He's got,
Hafiz. Okay, and I can shake his hand.
Yes, yes.
I'll shake your hand for her, okay? Thank you.
And I did, back then, just between you and me, invent the selfie. Check this out.
I would like to take a picture. That's a good-looking hat. Yeah. Yeah. I have a game I like to play with all my new friends. I will go like this. Can I take a picture with you and me?
Of course.
And all of you guys together. So you can go here. Okay. Are we ready?
Yes.
So we'll look into the camera and we'll say salam.
Salam.
We'll say people to people.
People too.
People to people.
I'd love to show you the whole show, you guys. That's a 1-hour show. You can watch it anytime you like for free on my website. You're already there. You know how to get it. Go to the TV section. You can see my Iran show, and you can see my Holy Land show, and you can see my Hunger and Hope show. I hope you're inspired to learn a little more. It's the next best thing to going there, I'll tell you.
Iranian women live under strict Muslim laws in public. To a Western viewpoint, the dress code imposed on women seems disrespectful. But according to an Islamic perspective, modesty is considered respectful. In Iran, women's bodies are not vehicles for advertising. You don't see sexy magazines. There's almost no public display of affection. While women can dress as they like at home, in public they wear the chador and are expected not to show their hair or show off the shape of their body. I found their awareness of our camera fascinating. Women seemed to sense when it was near and would adjust their scarves to make sure their hair was properly covered. Local surveys indicate that about 70% of these women would dress more freely in public if allowed. While modesty is enforced, vanity is not out of bounds. In fact, cosmetic surgery, especially nose jobs, is big business here among the middle class. Even though covered up, women expertly utilize their feminine charms. Faces are beautifully made up, and when so much else is covered, particularly expressive and mysterious.
Eugene, when your life's work is fighting hunger, and you hear our president cutting all the hunger programs to save 40 billion and asking for 500 billion more in 1 year's military budget, what goes through your mind?
Oh, I can't share what goes through my mind.
I'm sorry. I know it. I feel bad because you are so artful at just being a team builder, and you've got to do that. You can't get to first base unless you're bipartisan, you know?
Well, here's a couple things that I'll just say. One, I want you to know I've actually seen your Iran show years ago, and just rewatching it right now is just really good for my heart because I think you nailed it. We need to humanize one another.
Yeah.
During a time when we're speaking about America first or America only, we have to understand that you can be patriotic, but also be for our neighbors all around the world. So I just want to thank you, first of all, for humanizing the very people that we often hear we are enemies with. And that's just not quite the case. And to your point about budgeting, listen, $1.3 million per minute is spent on this current conflict in Iran. I'm going to say it one more time for the folks in the back. $1.3 million per minute. And think about what that can be used for both here in the US and also all around the world.
I just did the arithmetic. In 1 hour, you could quadruple your annual budget at Bread for the World. Imagine that. Oh my goodness. It's real. That's why Eisenhower said a bomb kills twice. It kills when you build it by denying that money there, and it kills when you drop it. You know,
yeah. So Rick, let me share just one more thing to keep things into perspective for those who are listening here. So right now, our conversation is centered around the conflict in Iran. What we are not hearing a lot about, because the war and gas is what's dominating the news, an extra 45 million people are projected to be pushed into acute hunger because of cost of rises in food, oil, and shipping costs. Those three things, because of this particular conflict, can impact 45 million people. The current record level of acute hunger is 319 million. So we're about to add about 45 million people onto that list.
You know, you have a friend who's a charismatic leader in Africa, and her name is Ndidi. And I'd love for you to, I've got a little clip that shows her. Could you set her up a little bit, please?
Exactly. Ndidi is not just a leader from the continent of Africa. She also leads an organization called the One Campaign, and she's also a personal friend. And the reason why this video is so cool, she gave these remarks at Bread's annual Advocacy Summit in DC, and I would love for folks to listen to what she says.
All right. Oh my goodness. Here we go. And she lives in a continent racked by conflict, which is contributing mightily to hunger there.
In my wall at home, I have this prayer. I'm sure some of you have it in your wall at home. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the wisdom to change the things, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, a young African says, no, I'm switching it up a little. I'm no longer asking God to grant me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change. I'm asking the Almighty to grant me the wisdom and courage to change the things I cannot accept. And what are some of the things we cannot accept? We cannot accept that we're going to let malnutrition regress. The rates, the progress we've made, we can't accept that. I can't accept that the face of Africa is a hungry child. I can't accept it. I cannot accept that the richest nation in the world that spends less than 1% of its GDP on international development has clashed it in many cases to closer to 0.1%. I can't accept it. 0.2% in some countries, 0.3%. And the narrative out there is unacceptable. The lies out there are unacceptable. In a place where we have data to prove impact, how can lies rule? I can't accept that.
Wow. Oh, Eugene, she's a power.
Well, we need Ndidi's voice. We need everyone's voice. I have a little example here. I don't know if you can see it here, but I brought a penny. And the reason why I sometimes carry a penny with me, Rick, is just to remind people we spend less than half of this one penny in our country to help make a difference all around the world, not just for moral reasons, the soft power that you mentioned. And I love the fact that we've got science, data, evidence that shows us how we can make an incredible impact around the world.
So you're talking about less than half a penny per dollar.
That's right.
Per dollar in our budget. And what's interesting to me, Eugene, we're both motivated by our faith and love thy neighbor and so on. But even if you're not motivated by love thy neighbor, this is a practical investment. And any experienced, high-minded military leader, I think, for example, I know General Petraeus because I had breakfast with him, and he affirmed this idea. For every dollar you save in soft power, you better budget more than $1 in hard power to make up for the extra chaos on this planet.
Absolutely.
It's a twofer. It's a practical investment, and it's love thy neighbor.
Right. And I often say, I think it's really a forfer. It's probably not a catchy phrase, but what I mean that it's a forfer is that, yes, it's the moral, right, compassionate thing to do. It's an example of modern diplomacy. And I'm sure we're going to watch some videos later, but it helps our model of capitalism. It's good for U.S. agricultural business, the commodities that we invest in. And the fourth thing is that it helps our national security. A safer world, a more secure world, a more fed world is going to have positive impacts on our U.S. national security as well.
Well, an example I often use is for the cost of one soldier in action overseas, $1 million every year, you can drill 100 wells to bring water to 100 thirsty towns or villages. And the consequence of that would be all the mothers in all of those towns could now stay home with their kids instead of abandoning their family every morning for hours to walk for water. We're going to take a look right now at a clip that is a very hard to look at clip for some people because it is extreme poverty. Half of the planet is trying to live on $5 a day, and frankly, that's okay. But what is not okay, in my mind, is extreme poverty. People trying to live on less than $3 a day. That's hopeless. And as we mentioned earlier, we were on a trajectory to end poverty before COVID. And in one generation, we had cut extreme poverty by 50%. But now people in your business know that there's what they call a hockey stick graph. It's clicking up. And that's because of these extra unfortunate trends that are happening in our world right now. But right now, I want to go off the grid in rural Ethiopia, and I want to go to a big city, Guatemala City, and see two vivid examples of extreme poverty in a world that sometimes just seems so out of whack with billionaires here and people living off of a garbage dump over there. So let me just take you for a look at what is the reality for 10% of humanity. And this is where we can make a huge difference with some very basic, smart, modern developmental aid.
Today, of the over 7 billion people on our planet, about half are struggling to live on under $5 a day. And roughly 700 million live in what experts call extreme poverty, trying to make it on under $2 a day. Imagine, this cup of coffee cost me a day's wages in the countries where the beans were grown. But there are big changes going on in the developing world, where in my travels, I found hunger and I found hope. Extreme poverty is difficult to witness. Living on less than $2 a day looks about the same around the world. People live on a dirt floor. No electricity, no running water. If they're fortunate enough to own animals, they live together. With an open fire on the floor and no chimney, their homes are dark and filled with smoke. Work is done by hand. They eat 1 or 2 plates of a starchy staple a day.
You know, I got to interrupt here. A lot of times we will get stock footage to illustrate something in my TV shows. None of this is stock footage. This is all, we were there with our camera. We didn't know what was inside this store. We didn't know if there's children or would we be welcome and so on. We were just exploring with the camera rolling. And these are all not hard to find. I mean, these are real people, dignified people living on dirt floors with open fires, wishing their kids could have access to medicine and education and good enough nutrition.
Not enough for their children to grow healthy. There's likely little education, job skills, or understanding of good hygiene. The people in this family will probably never be seen by a doctor. One unanticipated crisis, a storm, an accident, a sick parent, and these children go hungry. Hundreds of millions of people like these struggle daily, out of sight and out of mind of those of us who are more privileged. The gap between rich and poor in our world is huge. It's huge between rich countries and poor countries. It's huge within rich countries, including the United States. And it's huge within poor countries. Like any big city, Guatemala City has its poor districts and its wealthy districts. And the gap between rich and poor in Guatemala is particularly wide. The planned community of Ciudad Cayala is a protective haven for people with wealth. With stylish boutiques, name brands, movie theaters, and the kind of relaxed ease that comes with a sense of physical and financial security. The realtor here knows how to sell a condo. You have everything you need?
Yeah, you have everything you need. You have the movie theater, you have the supermarket, you have a church, you have restaurants, you have coffees, you have academies, you have, oh, you name it.
So you never need to leave this place if you don't want to.
Actually, that's the concept, that you have everything in a walking distance.
I visited him one year. I came back, he's a realtor, and I came back the next year, and I think he really thought I was interested in buying a condo.
While the wealthy in such a development have carefully scrubbed cans for garbage, at the other end of the economy, people earn their living digging through garbage. In the same city, thousands eke out an existence scavenging from the city dump. Like in many big cities in the developing world, an entire class of people are professional recyclers. Trucks with scavengers hitching a ride rumble in and out of the dump all day. Guatemalans actually compete for the opportunity to work here. Fido Sandoval, a former gang member in the city who spent many years scavenging in this dump, describes the experience.
Everyone is working on recycling different kinds of materials. People who are stronger and faster get a little bit of everything. Some have to focus on just one thing. Maybe they are not strong enough, or they get there after the others. So they just get what is left. Every day you're in a struggle, risking your life for basically nothing. It's difficult because you arrive with hope to be able to earn something. And you're in a constant struggle to survive. There is no security. You might earn $6 today, or you might cut your foot and you have to go to the hospital.
What is the stigma of a person who works in the dump?
Maybe it's a big stigma, but it's actually scary to learn a new job, to learn something else, because they aren't used to other jobs, because you think you can't do it.
The adjacent community, one of the poorest in the city, is built literally on the dump. Buildings are made of salvaged tin. Electricity is tapped illegally from passing wires. In this community, while there's a frail, informal economy, many family incomes are based on bags of trash scavenged to be recycled. Homes are built with a mishmash of material, as parents work hard to provide the most basic of necessities. Discouraging as this may look, there is reason for hope.
Eugene, you must think of some of the programs that have been very successful when you look at a clip like this.
Numerous come to mind, Rick, but just to kind of give you some context, this is where sometimes I can get a little tempted to get wonky, but I'll just share one or two things. There's a program basically called the Global Food Security Act, which Bread for the World advocated for. That was in that 50-year video. And it basically mandated all the government agencies to work together in a very coordinated global food security strategy. And one of the programs that came out of that was a program called Feed the Future. It has helped lift 23.4 million people out of poverty.
Wow.
Going from dependence to independence. It's prevented stunting caused by malnutrition to 3.4 million children. So I can go on, but I want your listeners to know there's no perfect programs, but when we're talking about programs that are making a real difference with real people, this is why it's so important to invest in international programs.
You know, there's a lot of people who just have a gut reaction to be almost as a defense mechanism skeptical about the money that goes into this, as if it's a dangerous place to invest because it's so naive or corrupt. What would you say to people who have that concern?
The first thing that I would say is I would love to have a conversation because we need a society and a community where we could have those kinds of conversations. So for those who are skeptical or cynical, okay, I get you. I understand why that might exist, but let me give you two proof for the time being. Number one, since the year 2000, basically in a quarter of a century, we've been able to reduce child mortality by half in 25 years. I mean, I'm not expecting, because this is not me, this is us collectively. That is stunning. It is mind-boggling that in our world, we've been able to reduce child mortality by half. And as a US citizen and taxpayer, I am proud that US played a significant part in those efforts. Here's the second example or second proof. This one's a little personal because I'm Korean American. I was born in Korea. My father was born in a small village outside of a city called Pyongyang. So he knew extreme poverty in his own life. But Korea was a recipient of a grant through the World Bank called the International Development Association. It's one of the things that Bread for the World advocates for. The US government makes investments into this particular grant. But Korea received its first IDA grant in 1962. Get this, it was a $14 million grant to bolster national railway infrastructure. They received a few more grants along the way. But guess what happened to Korea as a result of smart international investment? They graduated and they became a donor nation in 1977 back to the World Bank. That is amazing.
That's inspiring. Hey, Eugene, another concern I'd like to share on behalf of some people who are skeptics. The Bread for the World is a Christian organization, and you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. It's the way we love our neighbors. But, there's a history. I mean, you go back to the Irish potato famine, and Protestants from England went over and they would give people some nice soup if they would change from being Catholic to Protestants, strings attached. And to this day, there are well-minded, I guess, Christian organizations that put converting people first, and then we'll feed your soul, and then if you play it right, we'll feed your body too. What's your response to that kind of skepticism with the modus operandi of Bread for the World and your team?
Well, again, I love these kinds of questions because it allows us to kind of convey the truth. I like you, I cringe at that kind of colonial mindset of Christianity. If I can be a little bit more frank, I think it's disgusting. And it's what it means to be a Christian or a person of any faith is to love your neighbor. It's to seek the common good. It's to seek the well-being of others as well. And so at Bread, yes, we're a faith Christian organization, but you'd be amazed at how many people that are not aligned with Christian faith partner with us because they love and respect the work that we do. We will work with anyone and everyone who also believes in a nation and a world without hunger.
Thank you for making that clear. And I know that, sometimes you're proud of your faith and you want to witness. But for me, the best witnessing is loving your neighbor. And this is a way just to, with no strings attached, to recognize we're privileged and there are people that are hungry in our own communities and south of the border, and to ignore them, I don't care what your religion is, to ignore them is just not right. Hey, we're talking about some of the new values of modern development aid. I think it's fascinating to note that across the board, people are recognizing. And I should say, by the way, Bread for the World does not do these programs. Bread for the World advocates for the American government to fund nonprofits that are already in the trenches doing these programs. And some of the most effective programs these days are recognizing that the money is best invested in women as opposed to men, because women are the ones that are responsible and they don't piss it away and they don't go out whoring and they take care of their children and they're here next year and the next year and the next year after that with their families, investing in their community and so on. Let me just show a little clip illustrating how we learned about that in Ethiopia and Guatemala, the new recognition that it is women who are the best investment if you want to help a society bring itself up by its own bootstraps with a little aid.
Throughout the world, it's the women and girls who have fewer opportunities and endure the brunt of poverty. They eat last. They have babies early. And boys get priority for education. Ultimately, it's the women who take care of the children and are most responsible with the family income. When women have an education, legal rights, and employment, they are empowered. Experience has shown the importance of relying on women to spearhead development projects.
One of the reasons we know that it's worth investing on women is that women always put the care of their families and their children ahead of themselves. So for us, it's very important to ensure that we educate women, that we give women a voice, and that translates in empowerment of women, money, and therefore development of their family and their children.
Boy, I got to say, that's Laura Mello. She was the director of the World Food Programming in Guatemala when we were there. And she's the kind of caring, smart, hardworking person who could write her ticket in any realm. And she's dedicating her career to living in this community, helping connect caring people from the rich world with really people in need in the developing world. And she's the kind of person that I get so much gratification for helping empower. by making sure she gets the support that she needs to do the work she's doing.
If we want to be successful in terms of addressing poverty, hunger, malnutrition, we know we have to work with women because that will translate in development of the full community.
In Addis Ababa, a local NGO called Women in Self-Employment is helping Ethiopian women develop small businesses. These women are taught basic workforce skills and are given vocational training. In a place where any solid job is a good job, these women learn to sew. They gain skills to join the hospitality industry. And they learn to be computer literate. Organizations like this are in the business of producing success stories. And judging by the smiles here and the quickness with which these students embrace an impromptu opportunity to dance, this one's doing just that.
Oh man, there's so much more I want to talk about, you guys. I do want to remind you, when I was working on, I did 2 trips. I was scouting in Ethiopia and Guatemala and then going back to film. I ended up writing a book, a little book that contains all the information in the show plus much, much more because you can only put so much in an hour. And this book is available for free on our website. There's a PDF, you can download it, and you'll get that link tomorrow if you're watching. And also you'll get a link to this show so you can get the whole story on these things. But along with a focus on women, another focus is on education. And I was so inspired in both Ethiopia and Guatemala at the recognition you don't need to be people in secondary or higher education. Everybody just needs, 6 or 8 years of education, and then they can be part of the workforce and they can produce. Here's a good example of what's going on with education in these communities.
Education is critical. Governments, private enterprise, and parents are realizing that an educated workforce is a prerequisite for development in today's global economy. In terms of pure economy, workers are considered human capital, and they produce more when healthy and educated. Like many developing nations, Ethiopia aspires for all children to have about 8 years of schooling. In both countries, we saw committed teachers and eager students. Development workers have learned the value of education for girls. Girls with an education gain more control of their lives. Educated women have fewer children, and when they do start a family, their children are generally healthier. Even with meager resources, it seems that as long as students are healthy and adequately nourished, they're eager to learn. They know that a better future depends on being able to read and write. For these students, a few months of vocational training prepares them to get a job. Computer labs, welding skills, plumbing, and a field with lots of future employment, being a solar panel technician.
Hey, Eugene, we got to keep moving along. There's so much we could talk about, but I'd love it if you could just take a word about the importance of education in development and then segue into Jasmine, who is a wonderful person that can model some of the work you're doing.
Sure. Well, I think your video captures it so well. Education is not just about the immediate response. It's about really setting people up for independence, for long-term development. And both are essential. Like, we know that there are situations in the world where we need immediate responses, but think about the power of education for agency all around the world. A lot of folks might not know that issues of hunger also impact the United States and our neighbors in our respective neighborhoods or schools and so forth. And so I'm going to share a video, or ask you to share this video. It's a testimony from a college student named Jasmine Fajardo, who basically talks about the impact of this program called SNAP.
All right.
I am a SNAP recipient. My family was raised on food stamps, and that was the way that I was able. I asked my mom, freshman year of college if she knew what SNAP was, and she was like, "Are you kidding? That's exactly how you were able to get through school." And it was just become something that I wasn't even aware of, which is why most students just aren't aware of what resources are out there until they're in a situation where they are struggling meal to meal and still figuring out school on top of that. So something that was huge for me was understanding and now acknowledging that, hey, this is what social welfare programs do, and this is how federal nutrition assistance programs actually work. And for me, not being so focused on how I was going to feed myself, which was like my mom's main priority, I was able to really get through school, and now I'm in the honors program at my universities and able to flourish as a student.
So Eugene, how is SNAP faring with the struggles we've got right now with funding things with our government?
It's a tough environment. We can't mince words here. It was basically cut about $187 billion over the course of 10 years. Now, it could have been worse. The initial threats to SNAP were over $300 billion. So we were playing defense during that time, but it is going to have a significant impact. But there's a couple of things that I want to just say. For those that might not be familiar, SNAP is like modern day food stamps. It stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And I'm just so tired and sick of people thinking that it's fraught with waste, fraud, and abuse, because that's simply not true. The majority of the people that are on SNAP have jobs, are working, but it's simply not able to keep up with the cost of living and all the challenges in our nation. A couple more things. It impacts 41 million people. It serves 41 million people, Americans in our country. Half of them happen to be children. And we live in a country, and I got some visual effects for people. We live in a country where 14 million children in our country are food insecure. That's the reason why protecting SNAP is one of our biggest priorities.
Oh, I hate to be so overtly political, but make America great. There's 14 million people that need food stamps. There's one billionaire that needs that much more money. You choose. Where should that money go if you want to make this country great? It just seems such a very important work that you're doing, Eugene. And I am so impressed by the way that the good stewardship that you have with your budget. We were able to raise this last Christmas, as we mentioned earlier, $1.3 million. I do this every Christmas. For I think 5 years, we've met our goal of raising $1 million for Bread for the World, and it's the best dollar I could imagine spending, to be candid about it. And I was just so impressed that 6,000 people responded. 6,000 people actually got out their checkbook or went online and filled out the form with their credit card and donated $100 or more each. And that matched my $500,000. And again, we raised 1.3 million. And I understand that's about 10% of your annual budget at Bread for the World. And I'm so thankful to be able to do that. But now I want to do this again, but I'd like you to tell me how my money is going to be used, okay? What difference does that kind of make?
Sure. So you're right. Our budget's around $12-13 million a year. And what that does, in addition to helping us create strategic events in Congress, in DC, Grassroots, in Brazil last year for climate, the UN climate event, but it also allows us to assemble some of the most talented, committed staff that are doing this work every single day. So for example, I have a group of folks that are lobbyists that are on the Hill nearly every single day, meeting with members of Congress, the administration, with staffers. We're also doing research on strategies to end hunger, to make sure that our recommendations and advocacy is based on evidence and science and data. And then we have a group of organizers all around the country who are meeting with advocates like yourself and others state organizers, regional organizers, state organizers, because what really is going to move Congress is not just me. It's not just you, Rick. They need to hear from their constituents in either their district or in their state. I know that these numbers can be a little overwhelming, but just last year, because of your generosity and the 6,000 people that contributed, we were able to help facilitate over 200,000 letters to Congress.
Wow.
We held 405 meetings with members of Congress and their staff in DC, in addition to 350 more grassroots congressional meetings collectively. That is a lot of relationship building. And as a result, you and I talked about how this past year has been very challenging, and it has been. But I also want you and your listeners to know that we were able to add, along with the coalition of people, we were able to add $19 billion to the initial proposal that was presented by the White House. So they presented a budget for international global programs, and through lots of advocacy and meetings with members of Congress, we're thrilled that they were able to add $19 billion. When it's all said and done, that is going to make an impact on millions of people around the world.
You know, Eugene, that is so inspiring. We've got a little clip here. It's just a couple minutes long, and it really gives us a good look at how Bread for the World coordinates and does this impressive work. Let's share this, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Around the world, more than 700 million people go to bed hungry, including 1 in 4 children who are under the age of 5, who are at risk for life-threatening malnutrition. And in the US, over 47 million people experienced food insecurity. As policy experts, we know it doesn't have to be this way. As people of faith, we know it shouldn't be this way. And that's why Bread for the World exists. We are an informed, collective voice, compelled by our faith in Christ to love our neighbors, especially those who experience hunger. We are called to speak up and urge our nation's decision makers to pass policies that end hunger both in the United States and around the world. Since 1974, Bread for the World has united individuals and churches, creating a movement of 300,000 faith leaders, congregations, and partners advocating for policies to end hunger.
We advocate because we are commanded to love our neighbors.
We research, draft, and push for legislation that addresses hunger's root causes. We lead coordinated letter-writing campaigns that inspire communities to write tens of thousands of letters to Congress. And it's working. We help to expand nutrition programs, ensuring millions of children get a healthy start. We secured billions in emergency food aid, helped reduce child mortality worldwide, and championed debt relief for low-income countries, transforming lives in developing nations. Our advocacy has led to healthier school meals, more robust support programs for families, and innovative solutions to domestic and global hunger. During the pandemic, we championed policies that kept families fed and poverty rates low. Today, our Nourish Our Future campaign prioritizes advocacy for policies that would provide millions of children the food they need to thrive in the U.S. and around the world. But our work isn't done. We need your help to make hunger history. Will you join us? Will you speak up to make hunger impossible to ignore? Will you pray for those in need and give to support our work? You, me, us, our neighbors, all of us, together. We are Bread for the World.
You know, Eugene, I am so impressed by your ability to operate in a bipartisan way. And even this year, when the Republican Party has been kind of rubber stampy for the president, you're able to locate and nurture relationships with courageous, caring Republican senators and congresspeople. And I like this next clip. It's from Todd Young, who's a Republican from Indiana. And this is enough to give us all hope when we think of what the difference is in Congress when you get a bipartisan bill through. Let's meet Senator Young from Indiana, a Republican.
Hello, I'm Senator Todd Young. Over the years, I've received countless letters from members of Bread for the World. Many of these letters are personalized and ask me to support specific policy solutions to the problems of domestic and international hunger and food insecurity. I've been moved by these letters and I've learned from reading them. Messages like these are important in helping elected officials discern their own stances on critical public policy issues. So I'd encourage you to keep your letters, your phone calls, and your visits coming. You're making a difference, and I appreciate you taking the time to communicate with me and my team. Thanks so much, and God bless.
I'm Johanna Hayes, Congresswoman for Connecticut's 5th Congressional District. Before coming to Congress, I was the person at my church who collected letters to send to legislators for Bread for the World. As a member of Christ CME and the larger CME Connectional Ministry, I collected thousands of letters to send to legislators asking them to do something to end global hunger. Today, I'm on the receiving end of those letters. Thousands of letters come to members of Congress, and I see that passion and commitment and advocacy still exists. I sit on the Committee of Agriculture and the Subcommittee of Nutrition and Foreign Agriculture. So I see all of the work that you're doing, and I know that Congress has the ability to make the investments to end global hunger. So thank you. Keep your letters coming, keep your advocacy going, and help us to make people understand and appreciate that we have the ability and the capacity to end world hunger. We just need the will and partners like you. So thank you for all of the work you do to make sure that children around the world do not go to bed hungry.
Eugene, there's two leaders in our government. Johanna, who we just saw, is from Connecticut, a congresswoman. I would imagine she's a Democrat. Can you explain, just say a couple words about the people you work with, like Johanna and Senator Young?
Sure. Well, earlier, a couple minutes ago, I spoke to you about the $19 billion that was added to the SFOPS bill. That's programs for international global aid, maternal health, and vaccinations, and what have you. Well, these are the leaders that we spoke with. These are the leaders that voted to support these particular programs. And they don't happen in a vacuum. We have to build relationships over time, sometimes over years. But we are grateful for Senator Young and Congresswoman Hayes for their leadership. And we'll continue to show up at all of these offices to make sure that the stories of our neighbors near and far are being heard.
You know, Eugene, one thing I've found is that a lot of conservatives in our country, they really want people not to get a free ride, but to work hard and get involved in the global economy. And we have showcased them because, to me, that's what modern development aid is all about. It's a realization that capitalism is here to stay, and globalization is a big train. Get on it or get run over. That's what they say in Central America. I'd like to show this last clip. It's just 2 minutes to highlight hardworking people south of the border that just want to work their land, stay on the land, not go to the big city or not come into our country. They just want an opportunity to get in on the game, and we can get them that opportunity with smart, modern aid. Here we go.
While big agriculture, like sugar and coffee, is well connected with the global economy, a formidable challenge in the fight against poverty is for landless family farmers to also get into the game. High in the hills of Guatemala, an NGO has helped Pedro and Ana buy land and counsels them to maximize their yield and profit. Pedro used to leave his family for work in the coffee plantations. He still works hard, but now he's independent. The loan's paid off, and he owns the land. Through the NGO worker, Pedro shares his story.
Contento, alegre, porque antes no había terreno. Ahora, gracias a Dios, por la red, Ya tenemos un poquito de terreno allá arriba hemos comprado. Porque hay una pobreza entre la familia. Ahora poco a poco estamos remendando pues.
The NGO helps them to find the land and to have the lawyers for all the local papers so they own the piece of land.
So no sugar plantation can come here. He's got this land for his family.
He has his land for his family, yes. And his son will have the land when he is finished. They will stay here instead of going to other places. So they will be with the family all year round.
So the landless farmer is a migrant farmer. He
He's a
leaves his
migrant
family
farmer.
to cut sugar cane or work in the
Coffee plantations, yeah.
Anna and Pedro's main crop? At least right now, it's not corn or beans like you might guess, but snow peas.
Pedro, ¿ustedes comen estas alberjas aquí en el área? ¿En la casa? No, entonces ¿por qué las siembra? Okay.
I couldn't stop eating these things. They were so sweet and delicious. I've never tasted such great snow peas. And the local people, they made no bones about it. They don't even like them, but they get a good price for them in England. So they're just shipping them out. They're part of the global economy, and I got to try it.
¿La casa? No, entonces ¿por qué la siembra? Okay. No, they don't eat it here, but they grow it for selling. That's the main business.
It's not what the locals eat, but what international demand and prices make most profitable. And right now, that's peas. Throughout the valley, farmers like Pedro are bringing their bags of peas to the weigh station to sell to a middleman or exporter. These peas are export quality, carefully picked, and put into crates with all the children helping.
Look at this cute little girl. When she plunks it down, she just with joy, she bounces down and bounces up.
And within a short time, they're off to the market. Much of this shipment will end up sold in England. It's a long way from Pedro's pea patch to the supermarket in London.
Eugene, when you see that kind of industriousness, that kind of beautiful hard work and love and commitment to the land, what do you think?
Well, this is what I mean by the long-term development, about helping people to move from dependence to independence that you started the show about. And Bread for the World advocates on those kinds of also policies and legislation. And I think it's phenomenal.
And it is sort of like music to the ears of conservative skeptics about welfare queens and this sort of thing, you know, to see the work ethic that people have south of the border who just need a little support, and how many good people are in the trenches down there helping them out. You know, similar to the way that I'm crisscrossing Europe with a mission, I know you've been busy crisscrossing the United States with a mission. We're out of time. We'll have a few minutes for questions, but could you just wrap up your sort of takeaway with where our country's at and what are the challenges confronting us, and what are your reasons for keep on working and being hopeful in helping people get food on the table via the good work of Bread for the World?
Yeah, Rick, you're right. I've been traveling a lot in the past year, especially here in the United States, but also around the world. And there is a lot of emotion. There's grief over violence that we've seen. There's anxiety about the economy. There's moral distress about the tone of our politics, the impact of our policies. So I'm not gonna beat around the bushes. There is frustration, there is cynicism, there is exhaustion, but there's also resilience and a prevailing sense of concern for one another, especially around the world, and there's hope. And I've been so encouraged by people continuing to show up, to speak up, and to act. And as I hope I proved to you and to your listeners, that even in this environment, we've been able to see some positive policy change. And I want to just encourage people, stay the course, don't give up, stay engaged, and let's continue to speak up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Eugene, for sharing this and all the hard work you do. I like to say, the work you do is not a charity, it's a service. You're doing, I believe in specialization of labor, and you and your team are doing what I can't do as expertly in the halls of Congress. And inspired by your work, I can raise my voice and let my Congress people know and my senators know that I care about this and I'm one of their constituents, and I expect them to be tuned in to the practicality and the good investment dimension of this kind of work, as well as the importance of loving our neighbors. So thank you, Eugene. And Ben, I think we're ready for a few questions.
We are, Rick. But first, Eugene, Rick, on behalf of everyone who's traveling with us tonight, thank you so much for bringing up this important topic and taking the time to share the stark reality of what's going on with us. I know we were all deeply touched and feel the need to act. So you have so many supporters tonight in our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben.
And Rick, before we get to some questions, how about a word from our sponsor?
Well, our sponsor today is this is just one big 1 hour and a half long ad for privileged Americans, people that work hard. We've got a winning system. I'm so thankful for all the travels we can do and everything, but half of humanity will never see their name on a plane ticket, and 10% of humanity would be worried about where their dinner's going to be tonight. And we can balance our privilege and our vacation dreams by being good stewards of our wealth and loving our neighbor any way that you can imagine doing that, by empowering advocacy like the work that Bread for the World's doing. People can get to know more about it. They're going to get an email tomorrow with lots of links. Go to school on it. I'm so thankful that I did a trip south of the border instead of back to Europe one year. It lit a fire in my heart that's been burning for 50 years. And I'm very, very thankful for that.
Thank you, Rick. I'm very appreciative to all of our viewers tonight for submitting great questions. The first comes from Carl, and it's for you, Eugene. Carl would like to know how you approach the issue of international organizations looking to help locally. Is there ever any pushback?
Ben, do me a favor, repeat that one more time.
Yes, Carl is curious about pushback when international organizations are trying to make improvements, changes, or help locally with local people.
Sure. Well, anytime any organization, domestic or international, wants to make improvements, we should all be ears. No one doing this work is ever suggesting that it's perfect or can't use more improvement. I've had many conversations this past year with former USAID employees who are heartbroken, devastated by what happened. And they would be the first ones to tell you about their list of wanting to see USAID improve. I'm grateful that those folks are still trying to do this work, wanting to work with the US government, the State Department, USDA, about how we can make things smarter and more efficient. And then certainly, I think one of the things that you might be suggesting, or Carl might be suggesting, is a word that we sometimes use called localization. Is how do we empower more local leaders, more local organizations to have more leadership, more agency in the work that they do?
Are you talking about people here, or are you talking about leaders in the receiving countries where non-government organizations are working?
That's right, the latter.
Yeah. So that's that
leaders.
Concern. That's that concern about sort of imperialism with our values and coming in like a bulldozer, wanting it to be our way.
That's right. And I think decades ago, those were certainly happening in many ways. And this is where the phrase Western savior complex often came about. And I think we have to own up to that, name that there are dangerous elements. And I'm grateful that as I, like you, have had a chance to travel to many nations around the world, I've seen the resilience, the leadership, the brilliance of local leaders, and we need to do all that we can to elevate these leaders. Why? Because someday when organizations or governments leave, we need local leaders to continue to do their amazing work.
Great.
Thank you both. A question from John. How do you foresee American humanitarian aid returning in a future administration? Are you hopeful that we can return to the previous level of aid or even surpass it?
Wow, that's a great question. And I'm going to kind of give a two-folded answer. I'm actually not overly concerned about the next administration because there's so much work to be done right now. Like lives are on the balance right now. And so even as we celebrated the $19 billion over the president's budget request, the PBR, we're now talking about the 2027 appropriations process. Just last week, the State Department revealed their plan of a bureau, a new bureau that is basically sort of replacing USAID. And so we're working with them, trying to engage them about how can we make the most difference now. But of course, in terms of future administrations, our desire is we envision a world one day where extreme poverty will no longer exist. And if we believe that, then yes, we do imagine and hope that there is going to be a healthy, robust building of smart international global programs.
If I could just jump in, it's really good to get your hands on books that can give you the latest on this. This is a book written by David Beckman, who was Eugene's predecessor, I think is the word, for 30 years running Bread for the World. Poverty Abolitionist. I'm more than halfway through it, and it is really good. And David has dedicated his whole life to this. And this would be right up to date on his take, very accessible, which is a thing that Bread for the World is great with. And there'll be a link in tomorrow's email if people want to pick up David's brand new book. It's going to be out in the next couple of weeks, and stores all over the country are taking pre-orders.
And Rick, I'm pretty sure David is on this call watching. And so it's a phenomenal book. Would love to encourage people to check it out.
Good.
One final question for you, Eugene. Tina writes, in addition to giving to Bread, are there corporations that regularly support Bread that we could give our business to?
Wow, that is a great question. We don't have a lot of corporations or companies. We would love to encourage anyone that knows businesses or companies that are interested in partnering with Bread for the World. One of our favorites is HEB out in Texas. They're a fantastic supporter of what we do. But we also have lots of churches and denominations. There's also a company.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing. How many churches? This is the roots of Bread for the World is mobilizing churches to do letter writing campaigns. So if you've got a church, be an advocate for Bread for the World at your church, as we do at my church, and then you have letter writing campaigns, and you're into the hot wire, the hot connection with Bread for the World, and you're able to mobilize your voice beyond your dollars. It's really quite powerful.
Absolutely. Ben, there is one more company I'd love to highlight. It's called Rick Steves Europe. They're one of our most generous sponsors and supporters. And so, again, we're really grateful. My staff, they'll put some links, if they haven't already, about how people can join Bread for the World. That's probably the most tangible ways to become a member. Yeah. We have about 60,000 members all around the country who are members of Bread for the World. And through that, you could also write a letter to Congress, whether you're a member or not. And as Rick shared, learn how your church or small group or gardening group can start a letter writing campaign.
Eugene, what a delightful hour and a half we've had together. I look forward to this. I hope we can make it an annual get together. And you inspire me. And I hope that we have inspired a few people who have joined us tonight. Thank you, Eugene, and please give my thanks to your entire hardworking staff.
Rick, thank you so much. We love you. We respect you so much. Thanks for living what you preach and teach. It means so much to so many people.
All right. Hey, well, thank you. And Ben, we've got every Monday coming up. We've got great travels, Monday night travel. And we thank you for being with us today, and we'll see you at a future Monday Night Travel.
I can't find them.
You mean the Rick Steves guidebooks, which you can consult to get the most out of every day and every dollar on your next trip? They're right over there, Ben.
No, I'm looking for
the subscribe button, which you can click to be notified of more great travel videos. It's right here.
No, the whales. You said we were going to see whales. All I see are sheep and castles.
Oh, Ben, we are really gonna need to work on your British geography.